I mean, with the NFL season, and I think I speak for my colleagues as well, we don't get the chance to watch that much college football. So as soon as the Super Bowl ends, the cramming begins, even before the combine, trying to prepare as much as possible, watch as many games as possible in a pretty short amount of time. And it's an interesting way to, kind of evaluate and consume the tape.
Yeah, I mean, you can go a lot of different directions because I find in talking to experts like you, the questions are pretty prosaic. Is it who's number one, the quarterbacks? But I know that's not exactly how you do it. Do you look at specific team needs? Do you look at positions? How do you go about consuming all this? Because it can be an endless proposition.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We look at team needs, positional value. When you look at a player like Jordan Davis, for example, or Kyle Hamilton, I think that becomes an important question in trying to predict where they'll be drafted. And then another thing we look at that's not discussed as often is timelines for the teams. Are these teams trying to compete now? Do they want a guy, whether it's a quarterback or an edge rusher, who can step in and contribute immediately and make an impact? Or are they on a longer timeline? Are they comfortable taking a more developmental prospect? That's all really important when trying to evaluate the fit of the prospects with the teams.
The obsessive position in the NFL is always quarterback. So let me begin there because a lot of big moves have already been made leading up to the draft. But short of something happening between now and the draft, and it looks like there could be some things happening, what do you see from the prospects coming out of college this year?
I see a lot of question marks. This quarterback draft class is much maligned, perhaps unfairly. Odds are one of the top 5 will become an NFL starter, at least based on, the typical outcomes for these classes. But, I agree with a lot of my colleagues that if these quarterbacks were in last year's draft, they would certainly not be going in the top half of the first round. And, I go back to what I said about floor and ceiling. I think that becomes really important when you're comparing a quarterback like Malik Willis, who I think has the highest ceiling, but there's a lot of variance there. There's need for development, to a quarterback like Desmond Ridder, who's a player I've really enjoyed watching over the last month because he's such a good processor. He's so good at setting protections, which is part of the reason why he's excellent against the blitz, but perhaps doesn't have the ceiling of a Malik.
It seems like the interesting team is the Carolina Panthers because no matter what they do, they don't ever seem to have a quarterback. Even though they drafted a guy a couple of years, they signed a guy last year who was, I think, the number 2 or 3 pick from a couple of years ago. Do you see one of these going there? There's a lot of talk about Baker Mayfield. That's a name from the past. What is somebody going to dive in early on one of these guys?
Well, there's a lot of noise around Carolina drafting a quarterback at 6. This is a team that, as you mentioned, has been basically desperate to find a quarterback over the last few years. The trade for Sam Darnold, you alluded to, doesn't look great in retrospect, although their new offensive coordinator, Ben McAdoo, did say today he's the starter, which probably throws some mock drafts into a little bit of disarray. I think that desperation is never a good stance from which to approach a draft, especially a draft like this. And I look at this Carolina team, and I think they're improved, but they still don't have a start, like an above-average left tackle. And part of me thinks that if they were to take, I don't know, a Kenny Pickett, who there's a lot of rumors around there, or even a Malik Willis, looking at this offensive line and the team as a whole, I'm not sure they'd be put in a position to succeed. And part of me thinks they'd be better off bolstering the offensive line and waiting until next year, which, as you know, Paul, is a much better class for quarterbacks.
Yeah, it is. I do not want to go there, although we were talking about the Alabama spring game the other day, and with Bryce Young, there may be competition with one of his teammates for the number 1 position, Will Anderson, but we'll save that from a year from now.
Yeah.
But it will be a little more exciting. I agree. You mentioned Davis from Georgia, and that whole unit has been so awesome and elite. And I know it's a topic you guys have talked about on NFL Live. Just as you go through some of those players, sometimes it's a little bit hard to differentiate because they were so good together.
100%. And by the way, just watching Georgia, whenever I try to watch an individual player, I'm constantly distracted by another player doing something incredible. And first I'll say this, thank God they won it all. Because if they did, we'd be watching them and have some serious questions for the coach and quarterback, because this was basically an all-star team, on the defensive front. But it does, to your point, make it a little bit harder to evaluate them, not just because they obviously benefited from playing with each other, which is important, but also because their roles were really unique in that defense because of the surplus of talent. A player like Trayvon Walker, for example, who some people are now talking about as a top 3 pick, which seems a little bit rich to me. But his production was lower, as you know, in part because how he was used, lined up so much at the 3 tech or the 5, not asked to just go far outside to like a wide 9 position and rush the rush the quarterback, pin his ears back like Thibodeau or Hutchinson. And you have to consider that when you're evaluating. Or a Jordan Davis who had a limited snap count, which I think when teams look at taking him, in the first half of the first round, that raises questions. How useful is he? But you have to consider in that Georgia defense, he was asked to do something very specific, and he was very, very good at it.
Mina, finally, I'm interested in how you view the draft in a bigger part, because we see the mocks. Maybe we pay too much attention, and we give the owners, the GMs, so much credit. But I come away, and I don't cover the NFL to any degree like you do, but I always come away underwhelmed by the intelligence of the people making the choices that we build up all year long. How do you see draft night and all the things that go into it? Because I see a lot of guys who look like deer in the headlights when the night finally arrives.
Well, I think that cuts to your earlier question about the Panthers and what I said, which is it's never a good sign when teams are acting out of desperation. And I think that's something you see a lot in the draft. You're definitely going to see this year with teams, if, and this is a big if, of course, multiple quarterbacks go in the first round.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.